Welcome to Spectrum Perspectives, real talk with parents, professionals, and autism advocates. With your host, Cindy Gellermini.
Hi, everyone. This is Cindy with another episode of Spectrum Perspectives. And today I have Jennifer Love on with us. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Jennifer is a mom of a daughter, Emma, right? How old is Emma?
Emma is 20. She'll be 21 in October.
Okay. So, all right, let's do this interview. I know where we're going, but we're going to start from the start in the very beginning, the way I do with every interview. And let's go back to when you were pregnant with Emma and you were going to your doctor's visits. Were there any kind of red flags? Did the OBGYN say anything could possibly go wrong or no?
Not a one. It was really a great pregnancy. Actually better than my first. I had a lot of issues with my son, who's 27, but she was a great pregnancy.
Okay. All right. And that's another question too. Are there any siblings? Okay. So she's got a brother 7 years older.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And you just have the two?
Just the two.
Okay. So then how about the birth, the delivery and all that? Anything go wrong or everything was okay?
She was late. She was about 10 days late. So was my son. So nothing like out of the ordinary. She wound up being a C-section. Actually, both of my kids were face up and both of their noses were caught. So they were both tough deliveries in that, but nothing, other than nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I had one of those. David was sunny side up.
Yes, both of my kids were. My son was a forceps delivery, which they really don't do anymore, which I wish they had done a C-section with him too. So she was a much easier delivery. Yeah.
Okay. And then how about her development as a baby? Was she on time, on target? Was she delayed?
She was delayed, although she was the most perfect baby. And now what we thought was a perfect baby, we now know why she was like this. We could take her anywhere. She never cried. She slept well, kind of out of the gate, She was the exact opposite of my son, who was colic for 6 months and still doesn't sleep. But she really was the perfect baby. We didn't have any like red flags until probably about 10 months. She would laugh at you. She'd like, if you blew raspberries, she would blow raspberries at you. And at about 10 months, she started just looking right through you. Stopped laughing, stopped imitating, anything like that. It was at her 1-year checkup that we had a visiting pediatrician because our pediatrician was on maternity leave. And that's the person who really, for the first time, told me, there's something wrong with your child. I almost fell to the floor. But she said, this child has a genetic disorder because of the placement of her ears.
Oh, and nobody picked up on that before?
Nobody had ever picked up on it.
Huh.
And she was bald and she had big ears. Nobody had picked up on it. The only thing that the other trigger was probably, I think it was about 11 months, her one eye started crossing in, but nobody picked up on anything other about a genetic disorder. Now we did do genetic testing at that time and nothing came up, but it led me down the path of, it just kept ringing in my head what this pediatrician said. And at about 14 months, she was diagnosed with autism.
Okay, but ears, and that kind of stuff has nothing to do with autism, right? It's not a sign of autism.
It's not,
right?
It's not. But fast forward now to when she is 11, she then is diagnosed with epilepsy. And 3 neurologists in, because we couldn't get her seizures under control. The neurologists we're with now did a full genetic screening, and we found out that she does in fact have a genetic disorder called Lennox Gastaut Syndrome. And it's all intertwined.
Right.
All of it is intertwined. The lazy eye was a neurological issue. So, it's all intertwined. It's why she has autism, and certainly why she has epilepsy.
So what is this syndrome? I've never heard of it before.
So it's a form of epilepsy where she is not continually controlled by medication. She develops a resistance to the medication.
Oh.
So we have to constantly be changing the cocktail, if you will, because she'll start having, she's usually good about 6 months. And then she'll start having breakthrough seizures and we have to readjust everything. In addition, you always have to readjust in addition to as they grow, put on weight and things like that. But a medication will just completely stop working for her.
And is she having the tonic-clonic, grandma seizures, or she's having what
Most of them are absent seizures, thank goodness. She has had the tonic-clonic ones. She also has seizures where she has uncontrollable fits of crying.
Really?
Which I never knew was a seizure until about a year ago. She would cry out of the blue and we would have no idea why. She's 100% nonverbal, so it's always hard to figure out what's going on in her head, but we had no idea. And then we took her back in for an EEG, and it happened in the hospital, thankfully, and it is in fact a seizure.
I never heard of that. That's very interesting. That might be very helpful to parents that their kids might be having that.
The other thing my neurologist said, and another friend of mine who has a child very similar to Emma, same thing. He was just diagnosed with epilepsy, and he would have bouts of hysterical laughing with nothing seemingly to make him laugh. That too can be a seizure. Yeah, very strange, right?
Yeah,
I'd never heard of that before.
Interesting. Okay, so you said she's completely nonverbal. Did she ever have any words and lose them, or she just never did?
No. Nonverbal, unfortunately, not toilet trained successfully. She's been like this since, she never really developed any form of communication until she was about 5. But I always say to her, for someone who's nonverbal, you certainly have a lot to say. Like, she gets her point across, right? She uses her iPad to speak for her now.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Does she use any kind of communication device?
Yeah, she has Proloquo on her iPad, and she's pretty good at it. She yells at me with that device from time to time if I'm giving her a hard time about something. But she gets her point across, boy.
So her receptive is good.
Yes. Yep. When she starts, it's funny, when she starts having breakthrough seizures, she loses some of her receptive, and we kind of have to circle back and, learn some of those things all over again. Certainly when she was out of school during the pandemic, she lost a lot of receptive language.
Really?
Yeah. Because, I still had to work full time. So it was hard to, she didn't respond to virtual anything. Like, she didn't understand that a Zoom was actually the people. She thinks it's a video, so she kept trying to turn it off, Then she would cry because she would see her friends and her teachers, and I'm sure she missed them terribly. She didn't understand, I was crying during the pandemic, and I knew what was going on. I can't imagine how she felt, So we really struggled with her when she went back to school, and I felt bad, but I manage a real estate office, and real estate is one of the things that never stopped during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, it got crazy.
Oh my gosh. So we were working around the clock, so it was hard to keep her kind of up to date and going.
Who was watching her?
So my husband was furloughed for a while, not for long. And then he went back because he worked in an essential industry. And my mom lived with us at the time. So my mom would watch her. Okay. While I was working. I was working from home a lot of the time, but I was behind closed doors. So my mom would watch her. Eventually, we did hire someone to come in and work with her. But, it got to be really, really expensive to do that for any length of time. So she, all the special kids suffered during the pandemic. It was terrible.
Oh, yeah. For just the messing up
all
their
kids
routine.
Actually, not even special kids, all kids suffer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But autistic kids even more so, to mess up their routine, and they don't understand. You can't explain it to them what's going on. Even just like you're saying, she's watching her friends on the TV and she can't go see them, and you can't explain to them to her why, The
only thing that got us through, she has an enormous crush on her music teacher at school. And he's like her motivator for anything. If they're trying to get her to do something at school and they promise to take her to see Mr. Ryan after, she'll do it. So he was sending videos out to the kids. So that was my my only motivator for her to do anything I wanted her to do was
Right.
to watch Mr. Ryan on a video.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Where does she go to school?
Children's Center of Monmouth County in Neptune.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
And you're in
she
Cranford,
travels
so
about an
that's-
hour each way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And how come you sent her all the way down there, an hour away?
Well, when we were first looking at schools, it's actually a pretty funny, not funny, haha, but ironic story. My mother and I did the most of the visiting of the schools, and most of the schools were horrible. They were institutional, like, not anything that I wanted her to be a part of. Sending my then 2-year-old off to school was hard enough, right? But I wanted to know she was going to be in a really happy, positive environment. So Labor Day weekend, we're going down the shore to Wildwood, and we go first. My parents followed the next day, and they get into a fender bender going over the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
The woman who they got in the accident with was on her way to see her son at the Children's Center of Monmouth County. I had not thought about going in that direction. I was trying to stay closer to home.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're at the hotel, and there's a little boy there, and he's in a wheelchair. And my husband talks to everybody and started talking to this family. And where does he go but the Children's Center of Monmouth County? I was like, wow, that's the second time now we've heard it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get home, and there's a message on my machine from our caseworker who said, we haven't thought about going in this direction, but they have a spot for one girl at the Children's Center of Monmouth County. So I said, okay,
I got
Lord,
the
I hear
chills.
you.
Right.
And the very next day, my mother
These
and
are
I
like
drove
my
down
stories. Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
We drove
go
down
ahead.
there, and I just fell in love with it. It is the
Wow.
nicest campus. Everybody was friendly. Half the time you go
Mhm.
to these schools and the teachers look like they're there on court order, like they're not even, everybody was friendly. It was clean. It was well taken care of. It was relatively new. I think it was 2 years old at the time.
Right.
And that's where we decided to send her. And it was the best decision. She's really, really thrived there.
Yeah, I think you were explaining it to me on the phone when I talked to you ahead of time, but what makes this school different than other schools?
To me, it was just a feeling. There was a couple things, but it was just the feeling I got being there, that the teachers were genuinely happy. They were engaging with the kids. They were, even the security when you walk in, they were engaging. It's a 12-building campus.
Wow.
All one level buildings. And you're in your building by age group. They have an aquatic center, so the kids are in the pool twice a week, which she responds to water therapy beautifully. They have a state-of-the-art PT and OT room in every building, where like a lot of the other schools, they were doing PT and OT in like a hallway. I mean, this was just a cut above, and just really the overall feeling like it was a happy place. I used to say, it reminded me of Disney World, and that's where I would want to think about her being every day. And she's just thrived there. They have an adult program as well. So I'm hoping that when she ages out, she can still, remain going there.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. And they love her there. There's way more boys who are affected, unfortunately, than girls. So she's always maybe 1 or 2 girls in every class, and everybody always loves her, and they all know her because she's been there since she's 2.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. I really love that there's an adult program after 21, because we need that so badly. We
Absolutely.
need more of those.
The only thing I hated was the distance. I
Right.
didn't like knowing she was on the road an hour each way. And if I needed to get to her, the few times that she's had a seizure at school and I had to, dart down there, that's the only thing I don't like about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Robbie loves riding in the car and riding on a bus,
So does she. She loves
so
being
for
in the car.
me, his school was in our town and it was right down the street. I'm like, yeah, no, I wish he had at least a half-hour ride just so he could enjoy it. But
yeah, that's like her favorite thing, is to be in the car. We actually call her Miss Daisy because that's all she would want to do. So I would always say, I'm driving Miss Daisy. So yeah, so we everything in our life is about daisies right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, your whole life centers around them,
Of course. Yes.
Yeah, it's all about them for
Yeah.
sure. All right. So we're talking about these long rides on the bus. So the reason that I have you on is because you're pushing for legislation, Emma's Law, right?
Yes.
And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about what that's all about, because it has to do with her bus ride.
Yes. So when she was 7, so when she first started going there, I was very nervous, obviously, about putting my 3-year-old nonverbal child on a bus with people that I don't know.
Yeah.
So before her first day, I requested to meet with the bus driver and the aides that were going to be on the bus, and was told no, that wasn't protocol. I couldn't meet them, you know, whatever. So I kept refusing to send her with anybody until I met someone. So finally I met.
So hold on. So who's transporting her? The town of Cranford that you live in?
Well, no,
or a bus
the
company
county,
or the school?
Going out of district. So the county pays for, is the one in charge of transportation. So it, you know, the whole process is it goes out to bid and they select the lowest bidder. Which, you know, you never want to select the lowest. Imagine if you have to go for, you know, surgery and you select the cheapest surgeon, like it goes against, it defies all logic, right?
Right.
So here we are putting our most precious cargo, a nonverbal child who could never tell me if somebody is hurting her, and we're going out to the lowest bidder.
Yeah, no.
So finally I was able to find a company that would send me the driver and aide so that they could meet Emma and myself before I was going to unleash them to her, right? I mean, unleash her to them.
What do you mean you found a company? I mean, I thought the county is supplying this.
Right, but I kept refusing. I have a habit of voicing my displeasure, and I am sure the superintendent of Cranford at that time, I know for a fact, would like sometimes he wouldn't take my phone call, so I'd go sit in his office until he came out. Because you know, you better listen to what I'm saying. I'm not going to roll over. I feel bad for a lot of parents who either don't have the availability to do that because of what I do. It, you know, freed me up to be able to sit in his office a couple times for a few hours, or who just don't have the tenacity. Like you got to fight for these kids every minute because she can't fight for herself, right? I know you felt that same way with your son. So I kept refusing to put her on a bus. And so they had to keep going back. I went over to the director of transportation for Union County, who through the years I became friends with because we had so many issues. And so finally we had a company and a driver and an aide who were wonderful. And they treated Emma like she was their granddaughter. I had their contact information. So if I needed to get in touch with them, I could call them. And, you know, they would text me every day and say, we're at school or we're picking her up and coming home. So I had peace of mind. So fast forward then to when she is now 7 and it goes out to bid, and that company lost the bid. So it went to a larger company. I won't say the name of the company. It went to a larger company that would not comply with what I was asking. They actually sent me a driver and aide who did not speak English. And the response was, well, these children are nonverbal, so it doesn't matter. Can you imagine? So I couldn't even communicate with them. I was fighting and fighting and fighting, and nobody was giving in. And so against my better judgment, I put her on that bus, and I never felt comfortable about it. We're into the route 2 weeks, and I have a parent-teacher conference at her school. She was getting on the bus at 6:45 in the morning. I didn't have to be there till 10. So when I got there at about 9:45, they said to me, oh, did you bring Emma with you?
Oh, no.
And I lost about 10 years of my life in that one statement. And I said, no, she got on the bus. Well, she's not here. They're not here. So it was the worst moment of my life. I thought for sure, I thought I was never going to see her again. I got on the phone with the director of transportation, screaming because I said, I don't want to say I told you so, but I had a gut feeling and you didn't listen to me. 1:30, the state police found them in Camden, which is nowhere near Neptune.
No, and yeah, for people that are not from New Jersey, right? It's like
it's about
Camden
an hour and a half away
all the way
from
South
Neptune.
Jersey. Yeah,
Right.
it's down near Philadelphia. Yeah.
Right. they escorted them back to the school. They had no explanation as to why they were there. They said they got lost.
Yeah, right.
Now, the route from my house to the school,
Right.
there's one turn. It's a straight shot down the parkway.
Parkway, yeah.
You get off exit
Off the
102
parkway.
and it's right there.
Right.
So I wasn't buying that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to
so-
take the turnpike probably to get down to Camden. Yeah, like it's a completely different.
They were without a
different
doubt.
highway. Yeah.
They were without a doubt up to something that they weren't supposed to, with 4 nonverbal witnesses that could not tell on them.
Right. Right.
So I said to the director of transportation, she's never getting on that bus again. I don't know what he did, but he wound up finding a company that my driver and aide went and worked for. And I got them back. And I was blissfully happy for about 11 years. Then it went out to bid, as it did every year. They just kept winning the bid on purpose. It went out to bid, it went to another company. So now we're in it's June of 2018. And I get the notice that she's going to have a different company, different driver. And here I go again. I go down the road. I want to meet the driver. I want to meet the aide. I want to meet the nurse. I was told no. I said, I want their contact information. I want a copy of their driver's license. You know, I want a GPS so that I can see where she is. And I want a communication device on that vehicle that I can communicate with them. I was told no, again, fighting with Cranford and the county. So the morning she's supposed to go to school, the superintendent showed up at my house, I'm sure with a little trepidation of what was going to happen. And I said, I had told them, if I don't get that information, she's not getting on that bus and you're not going to be happy. I had 1015 on standby, you know, the radio.
The radio station? Yeah.
I was not fooling around.
Yeah.
So sure enough, they pull up, they won't give me their information, wouldn't even give me their last names of the people in the bus. We are on the phone with the owner of the company and they're telling me this is not protocol. We're not allowed to give you this information. I said, I don't care what your protocol is. You're not taking my daughter if I don't know who she's in the car with. Their answer was, well, if you have a problem, you can call the office. I said, what time does the office open? 9:30. So from 7 to 9:30, I have no idea where she's going. Now, I just can't even believe that that's the process that we're forced to put our kids in. So now the big mistake they made, I said to county, I said, until you get this figured out, I'll drive her to school. I had the ability that I could do that. But what they didn't count on was that they had 4 hours captive in a car every day. And that's how Emma's Law started. I started calling every legislator I could get my hands on until somebody would listen to me, call me back and take this seriously. And that was Senator Bramnick. And that's how Emma's Law started, because he couldn't believe the story I was telling him. And here we are. We were very close to getting it introduced onto on the agenda, and then the pandemic started. And so that's kind of pushed this back. But I have heard that it's hopefully going to be on the next agenda for the Senate. So I'm hoping.
Right, right. So John Bramnick, he was the assemblyman at the time.
He was the assemblyman at the time,
yeah. Right. Yeah, he's now the senator. His name is still on it?
Yes.
Yeah,
and Senator Corrado.
Right, right. And then also Michelle Matsakudis.
Correct.
Is going to, I'm friends with Michelle. I know she's the new assemblywoman, and I know that she's gotten involved as well. She wants to help people with special needs as much as she can. So this is, I think, this is the first, thing that she's got her name on that she's very excited about, is helping out with that, with the Emma's Law. Yeah. Right. So I'm going to interview her as well.
Common sense to me, right? Doesn't it seem like common sense?
Well, what are you asking for specifically? What do you want?
So Emma's Law states that any vehicle transporting a special needs student will have a GPS tracker, a communication device, and a camera.
Right. I mean, at the very least, a GPS with a tracker, for crying out loud, so you can find out where they are.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just, I can't believe that they don't have that.
Me neither. And, honestly, the camera is for both the child and the other occupants of the bus, because I am sure there are people wrongly accused of things because it's their word against a nonverbal child, right?
Right.
And it's going to protect everybody.
Right. Right. Yeah, I feel like I've heard stories about that too. I mean, yeah, it's true. I mean,
You
a
know,
kid, an autistic kid could be biting themselves, scratching themselves,
Exactly.
or another kid could be,
Exactly right.
bothering them on the bus, but then the bus driver gets in trouble because there's bruises or scratches on the
Correct.
kid, right?
You call an Uber driver, you get a text with a picture of their driver's license,
Yes.
their license plate number,
Yes.
and you can track where they are in real time.
Yes.
And we are, able to protect ourselves. So Uber has that technology, but we
Right.
don't do that for our most vulnerable people. It makes
Right.
no sense to me.
No, not at all.
And in today's world, it's not even that expensive because you do it on a device. They could buy a phone for every vehicle, and that would be all they need.
Well, that's what the Uber guys do. They all have their cell phone,
Exactly.
on the front of their car, and they're
Yeah.
following the directions there. It's tracking them
Right.
and everything else.
And I'm sure there's an app that they could use that would suffice. So it really doesn't make any sense. I'm sure, is there a financial piece of it that everybody would have to outfit the cars? Sure. But if they want to be eligible to bid on a route, then they'd have to outfit their cars.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's just common sense. It's common sense. So the law, the way it's written, just says what specifically?
That each vehicle would be equipped with those three things.
With those three things.
A communication device, a
Right.
GPS tracking system, and a camera.
So communication device, you mean a phone?
A phone, however it would be, yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's just common sense. So, and is this for all buses or for special needs students?
Any vehicle transporting special needs.
Special needs kids.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. And then you were telling me in the beginning, there's a new thing now where you can't name it after someone, so they can't call
Yeah,
it
you
Emma's Law
can't.
anymore?
So
That's a
yeah,
new one.
since it's now the bill formerly known as Emma's Law, I guess, you're no longer able to name legislation after a person. They voted on it between 2018 and now, I suppose. I just found out about it.
Oh, that's interesting because I've only heard it referred to as Emma's Law. And
Yeah,
then,
I literally just found that out yesterday.
interesting. Because I'm also friends with a mom that her daughter was bullied, Mallory's Army, and she's been trying to push for Mallory's Law, a bullying thing. And then
Yeah.
I'm also going to be interviewing Martha Cray, who she's pushing for Billy Cray's Law. So now I have to call it those things. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm doing. You can't just give it a
always
number.
gonna call it. It's always going to be Emma's Law to me, whether it's resolution, 2607 or whatever.
Right. It'll be AKA. Emma's Law,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
I did, when I was trying to find you, I did Google Emma's Law, and there is in another state, there's another Emma's Law for
There
something
is.
else. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know what that is, but that's not related. So this one is about the videos on the school buses. Okay. So interesting. So hopefully it's going to come up soon and it'll get passed, right?
Yeah. I mean, the governor can sign it as an executive order right now, as he does with many other things.
Yeah. Yes. And we'll just leave that right there.
We'll just leave it right there. But, something this important should be considered.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully by the time this airs, it'll be a done deal. I'll have to come on the end and I'll have to let everybody know how it goes.
That will be one of the happiest days of my life.
Yeah, that'll be wonderful. So I didn't realize that this had all happened when she was 7.
Yeah.
And she's 20 now. So you said 10 years went by, and then it's when you had the issue with the bus drivers again, is when
Right.
it kind
We
of
were
sparked
blissfully, I don't have many regrets in my life. I regret that I did not pursue anything with that bus company. But we were blissfully, living in a fog because I got my old driver and aide back.
Sure.
So, and we had them for so long and it was great. I trusted them immensely. They were one of the only 2 other people other than really my mom who ever babysat for her,
Right.
So, I trusted them, completely, and I wasn't, even thinking of anything until that dreadful day in 2018 when I got that letter that they were no longer going to be.
Right. And then it was like PTSD. It's like, oh no, I've got
Oh.
this, that might happen again. I can't do that again.
Right. They should think
Mhm.
again if they have to give me 4 hours of captive time in my car. The things we could do while we're driving in our car, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, also because my son had seizures as well, and my fear always is no matter where you go, what you do, what if he has the seizure, right?
Exactly.
You have to give him the meds. So,
Right.
has that ever happened while she was in the car? I mean, she's
It
in there for an
hasn't,
hour.
thank goodness it has
Oh, thank
not.
God. Yeah.
Yes. But she, I always joke she has a posse. So she's in a minivan. She has a driver, an aide, and a nurse. Everybody's there just for her. It's her little posse.
Oh, she has a nurse on there too?
She has a nurse because of the epilepsy, if they have to administer the diastat.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so she gets a diastat. So that's for people that don't know, that has to
Yep.
be administered rectally, which is, like a nightmare.
It's near impossible, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We were in Panera once. I was there with my daughters, and Robbie started to have a seizure, but he had the one where he just sort of froze and his head just sort of turned to the side and he just started to drool a little bit.
That's what she has generally.
Right. Yeah. So, but I immediately, like, it turned into like, the Matrix, like, and I said, okay, all right. I said, girls, here's how it's going to go down. Denise, you're going to pick up my coat and hold it up like a shield so that I can, and then you're going to call 911. You're going to hold this, and I'm going to try to get his belt and his pants off and try to administer this thing rectally in the middle of a restaurant
in the middle of Panera,
and try to protect his privacy here by holding up the, thankfully we didn't have to do it, but that's, people don't understand that's the way your life rolls,
That's it. I
and
know.
you're under constant stress and constant, fear for your child's life, really.
Yes.
You're constantly living in that heightened state, right? And then for something like that to happen, for your kid to disappear, and
right,
with these
I really thought I
strangers.
was never going to see her again.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I know, of course, because you don't know who this person is and what they're doing and where they are. Like, who knows?
Right.
And
for
me immediately, I'm like, if you're gonna, they're down in Camden, I'm like, that was a drug run.
Absolutely, that's what I thought. Absolutely. I just don't understand why they don't. It seems unreasonable that I should want to know contact information and names. And with the newer company in 2018, when I said I want a copy of their driver's license, and they said, why, are you going to do a background check on them? I said, absolutely.
Yeah, you should.
I'm absolutely going to.
Yeah, this is all very interesting to see. For me, Robbie's, he went to school at the Morris Union Jointure. He was bused by the Morris Union Jointure, and his bus driver was also the lady that worked in the cafeteria at the school. She lived here in my town. I've known her forever. Like,
right.
So this stuff doesn't even occur to me, because that was like that, because she was with him since he was 2.
Right.
You know, and she knew him his whole life, and I knew her and trusted her. And, so that was,
I can't tell you how many, since I started this crusade, how many people I've heard from that, they have no choice but to put their child on but they have to go to work. They work, they leave early, they work in the city, they get home, whatever, and they have no choice but to put their child in that position.
And you're at the mercy of strangers.
I'm very fortunate that I work for a company that completely understood and let me work around having to take 4 hours out of every day for that entire summer to be able to transport her to and from school.
Right. Okay, so that brings me to another thing that I just want to throw out there for parents. Years ago, I knew a mom that our kids went to early intervention together, and she lived down the shore. She didn't like any of the bus drivers that they were sending to her house. So she got her CDL license, and the town hired her to drive her own child and paid her to drive her own child to school back and forth. And I said, that was brilliant. I know I wouldn't even have thought of something like that. So I'm throwing that out there to parents too. If you want to you could get paid to drive your own kid if you want to. Yeah, but you didn't have the town though. This was through the county and through the contracts, and that's a whole other ball of wax.
Yeah.
But so if you are in that situation, I think you're very smart, wanting to do the background check and wanting to know everything, and having the cameras and the GPS. Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. I just keep alluding to Uber. I mean, why do we, why do we get that, but we don't get it for our kids? It
Right.
doesn't make any sense to me. At that point, I
No.
should call an Uber for her. Because at least I
Right.
know who's transporting her.
Yeah, exactly. I know when Robbie, after he turned 21, I was looking at day programs, and one of them expected them to get on public transportation and get himself there.
Really?
I'm like, he's mentally a toddler. I'm
Yeah.
like, would you put your 2-year-old on a bus
Right.
alone and expect them to know where to go and where to get off? No, it's not gonna
Exactly.
happen. Not gonna
Yeah.
happen. It's like just the things that come up. I'm like, no.
And the things that come up with people who are in this industry that should know.
Mhm.
You know, if you don't have any exposure, you know, before October 30th of 2001, I really didn't know anything about autism or special needs or anything.
Exactly.
You know, but the people that should be aware, like these companies that are transporting special needs,
Mhm.
shame on them.
Mhm. Yeah. Right. You'd think that people would know better.
Right.
Yeah. And as far as the video camera thing goes, because I'm going to interview Martha Cray too, I had asked for a video camera in my son's room in the group home. I wanted just a baby cam, just to
Mhm.
watch him, just to make sure he wasn't having a seizure in his bed. Okay.
Right.
I was told flat out, no, absolutely not. Invasion of his privacy. And I said, how come every mother of a baby
Right.
has a webcam, has a baby cam watching their child sleep to make sure that they're okay, right? And my daughter had put her son in daycare, and they had video cameras in the daycare, and my daughter would go to work. She was a special ed teacher. She could watch on an app on her phone. She could see the classroom whenever she wanted.
Yeah, I could do that with my daughter's school.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And
Right,
as their
because it makes
guardian,
sense. But
as
why?
their guardian, there is no invasion of privacy.
Right.
It's our job to invade their privacy, actually.
But there's been so many stories on TV and the news of babysitters and nannies abusing children, and we have to put the hidden cameras and all that kind of stuff. Same thing with the daycare center. That's why there's cameras there, to make sure nobody's abusing your child.
Yeah.
And we have no problem with that, of thinking, yeah, of course, every parent wants to protect their child, right? Because they're little and they can't talk for themselves, and it's so easy for them to be abused. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not like you were asking to put it in the entire home. You wanted it in his own room.
Right. Yes. Right. And I'm his
Right.
guardian. So anyway, so I'm all over that other law as well.
Yeah.
So, and some people don't like it. And I'm like, you know,
Walk a day in our shoes. You'd feel different.
yeah, exactly. And so what I've always said is, it takes a parent that has an autistic child that's lived it. You're the one, unless you've lived it, you don't know. You know, and things aren't going to get done. And it takes parents, usually moms, to get it done. If you need it done, yeah, you got to have the warrior mom to get it done.
Yeah.
So
the things people take for granted,
mhm.
they just don't, you know. I have to take my daughter for an ultrasound under anesthesia, and I need to take her in for a COVID test. I don't know what army is going to hold her down, but when she sees that swab coming, and they are strong, like superhuman strong.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know where it comes from.
I'm
It's
trying
like,
to figure out how I'm going to accomplish this, but I guess I'll work it out somehow.
Yeah. And also that you can't say, oh, we'll give them a little bit of melatonin or whatever. No, that stuff it doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work.
No. I mean, you know, we have to put her under anesthesia for a 5-minute ultrasound. You know what I mean? Because there's no way she would sit.
Yeah.
No way. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well,
I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to get information and word out about it. Because at some point, I think we'll probably have to do a mass calling to every legislator and the governor to push them over the top. I haven't been given that instruction yet, but I know it's coming.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm going to bring Michelle on too, to talk about how the system works, you know, and how things like this get done. And we'll see. But I'm hoping by the time we get her on, this goes through. So what did you say? You've got like a week or so, a week or two?
Well, it's supposed to be on the agenda for next week when they meet.
Okay.
So I'm hoping so. I'll find out for sure next week if it is on the agenda. Let's hope.
I knew that the other one was supposed to be on the agenda this past Thursday and it got pushed because
This has been pushed many times.
Yeah.
I did during COVID, actually, I did testify for this transportation committee, the Assembly Transportation Committee.
Mhm.
Then COVID shut everything down and we never got to the Senate. So I'm
Right.
assuming that's going to happen at some point as well.
Yeah.
I had to go on Schoolhouse Rock to watch how a bill becomes a law again because I forgot the process. So you might want
that's
to
good. I'll have to do that.
you might want to attach the link to the podcast. So
Yeah, right. Anybody like under 30 is going Schoolhouse Rock. What is that?
Exactly.
It used to
Exactly.
be on Saturday mornings in the middle of Saturday morning cartoons.
I said to the nice intern or aide for Senator Corrado, can I pick a new name for the law? And he's like, well, it has to be a number. I said, could it be 8675309? And he had no idea what I was talking about. I'm like, because at least I would laugh every time I heard that. My name is Jenny, so it would work,
Oh yeah, that's funny. That's
Yeah.
even funnier. Yep.
He didn't find it funny. I had to,
No.
when you have to explain it, it loses its
Yeah.
flair,
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Yeah. It's funny because I work with kids. They're young adults in their 20s too. And like I keep wanting to make a joke and then I'm like, oh yeah, no, they're not gonna get it. They won't
They're not gonna get
they
it.
won't-
No.
They won't get it. So yeah. So it's
Yeah,
nice to
right
talk to
over
somebody
their
my age.
Exactly. Exactly right. Yep.
All right, Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. I hope we got some good information out to other parents here to learn from and glean, and it'll be helpful to them. And like I said, I hope by the time this airs, this will be a done deal, and we'll see some
Let's
cameras
hope.
on the
I'll keep
cameras on the
you
buses.
posted.
Okay, awesome. All
All
right.
right, great. Thanks so
Thanks.
much. It was
All
great
right,
talking
welcome.
to you.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye.
That's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed listening and it helped you gain a new perspective. If you're interested in buying our book series, Robbie's World and His Spectrum of Adventures, the link will be in our episode description as well as my Instagram and Facebook pages. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like more content, please be sure to hit that like button, follow us, and don't forget to leave us a great review. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to join us again on our next episode of Spectrum Perspectives.
Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to join us again on our next episode of Spectrum Perspectives.